Islam family, Islam. All right. Once again, my name is Malik Wali Obey. I am coming to you all from Cleveland Heights, Ohio, or more commonly known as Northern Washita, Amaruka, right below Lake Erie, Cuyahoga River. Today we're going to continue with our video series, and the topic of today will be continue to focus on the Constitution, the Republican form of government that we all have, and the feudalism that was put in place, or feudalism that came with our European brothers and sisters before the United States was enacted, and the feudalism that was then put in place after the infiltration that happened in 1870s, 1880s, and then more importantly in 1913, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. And we want to touch on Escheat, Wardship, and how the business is functioning now as far as buying houses, paying bills, liens, and things of that sort. Let's see here. It is important to understand once again that, of course, according to the Constitution, right? According to the Constitution, Article 2. Article 3. Article 4, Section 4. It is important to understand that, as it states here, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. So you see there it says Republican form of government. Now feel free, family, to take notes, follow along with your dictionary and with a copy of these instruments, so you can see exactly what I'm saying and where we're trying to go with this information. So it's very important to understand that. Republican form of government. Okay? Now, what our European brothers and sisters was coming from in Europe was feudalism, where feudal law is a landholding system particularly applying to medieval Europe, and where all of the people, all of those who are subject to either the king, the monarchy, or like the parliament of some sort, were bound by their status in a hierarchy of reciprocal obligations of service and defense. Thus the lord was obligated to give the vassal land, protection, and justice. The lord guaranteed occupation of the land by the vassal and guaranteed to do right. Okay? In return, all right, this is the key. In return, The vassal owed the lord some sort of service called tenure or holding, because the service is how the vassal held the property. Okay? Feudal law is the real property law of a land holdings. Alright? Now, we all know that the state and land is one and the same thing. Okay? So it's very important to understand this. When people are talking about, alright, this is a democracy. This is not a democracy. Now, first of all, alright, this is a republic. Okay? And republic says the people are the law. People govern themselves accordingly. That's what a republic states. A democracy states that there are a small collective of people, right, who are governing for the masses of people. All right? And that's not exactly what was established in the Constitution in 1776, 1789. That wasn't established with the treaties. Because we, the people, the Moors here in America, are falsely called Indians and Negroes and Africans, of which we are none of. Okay? We are Moors. Not Africans, not Indians. Okay? Not Ethiopians, or Egyptians. These are all common modern terms that was created primarily in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. All right. We are none of these terms. Okay. We are Moors. The land is Mu, and we are the Moors. All right. That's why when you look in the dictionary and you look up Moor, you're gonna see land. You're going to see people. Alright, you got words like marsh. This is swampy land. Then you got words like mer, which is the sea itself. Or mar, which is the sea itself, the water itself. Okay? This is very important to understand that. Okay? Now, when people talk about, okay, paying bills, I got to go to work to pay bills. I got to pay these taxes and things of that sort. Now you're getting into, we talk about water, electricity, right? Gas. That came later, 1900s. Before that, everybody, there was no electricity and no gas or no running water in any of the homes in the 1800s, because it didn't exist. They wasn't on that. The European brothers and sisters wasn't on that level yet. Places in the world where we had it, the Moors, absolutely, but our European brothers and sisters wasn't on that level yet. All right, and everything was done naturally. Either you had a well, or you was by a river, or you was by a lake, something like that. And every house had a fireplace. Okay? This is very important to understand this. Okay? So when people now talking about, okay, I got to pay these bills, and they got to pay taxes, they're not talking about the Republican form of government that was put in place. They're talking about the feudalism and the democracy that was put in place 1870s up all the way up to the 1930s, 1940s. Okay? With the New Deal by Roosevelt and the creation of the Social Security Act, or the Social Security numbers and the birth certificates, driver's licenses, state IDs. This is what you call the licenses that was put in place you got reorganized. Okay, that's the feudalism. Okay? Not the republic. That's the democracy, not the republic. The republic is what we all agreed on. That is de jure. The democracy is de facto. No one really agreed to the democracy. It was more or less a handful of European brothers and sisters that got compromised in the Congress, right? Elected officials that got compromised and then brought in the democracy without the permission or the knowledge of the masses, and then brought it in anyway. Okay? So that's what happened. Okay? Now let's look at a state. Okay? A state is the state of being or condition. It's a physical person, or it could be something like land, or it could be something like an inheritance, a house, a car, or something like that. Okay? State is a social or political class of people in a community, especially one of great classes having distinct political powers. In feudal times, there were 3 estates. There were the clergy, the nobles, and the common. A person's property or possession, fortune. A landed property as a country. Okay? So a state can be land itself. It could be your political class, where you're a noble person, or you're a clergyman. Okay? So it can be both. It's your state of condition, and it can also be a possession, property or possession. Okay? Because they're related. Because if you're noble, then your possession is going to reflect that. Whether it be a house, a car, a land. Right? If you're not necessarily in a noble position, and you might be clergyman or common or something like that, then your possessions will reflect that. You might not have a house, you might not have the land, but you'll have, yourself. Okay? Thus, it's very important to understand this distinction, because you hear a lot of people talking about that today. I mean, that's basically how it's really being functioning right now. You're hearing a lot of people talking about estate, paying bills. I bought land. I bought this house, right? Not recognizing that they didn't buy a house. They didn't buy the land. They was given a loan from a lender, whether it's a bank, to rent the house, to rent the land. Okay? That's why you have mortgages. And you have taxes, okay? Because the house is not really theirs. That's why they pay a mortgage. Don't pay the mortgage, the bank will take back the collateral of the house, right? They put a lien on the house or something like that. That's why there are taxes, right? You can pay off the mortgage. Even if you pay off the mortgage, you ain't got no mortgage, still got to pay taxes. Because you don't really own the property. You're renting the space. You're renting that area to reside on. Okay? And that's why you keep paying taxes. Okay? That's feudalism. Okay? And because if you don't pay the county its taxes, or the city their taxes, the city is going to take back the house, right? Because it's not really there to begin with in the first place. It's not designed for ownership. Alright, you see the contradiction there? But they promote it as if they're owning something. Come own a house. Right? Come own the car. Right? That's what they say. Come own this land. You want to buy some land? You could buy some land. And after you buy it, you still got to pay your own taxes on it. Because how is it theirs if they still paying taxes on it? That don't make no sense. And the truth is, that's not what they're telling people. They're misleading the people on purpose, because they understand that it's not possible. No European, no quote unquote, no European or no U.S. citizen, right? Because that's how it's designed, can own anything in America. It's not designed that way. Okay? They just don't tell the people that way. They want people to make it feel as if they own it, because their name is on the deed. Right? They're just caretakers. They're really caretakers. They're tenants. You understand what I'm saying? They're only there for a certain amount of time. Whenever the finance runs dry, they're going to take it right back. Right? And the only people who can own are those aboriginal ones or indigenous ones who was there first, who gave our European brothers and sisters the permission to occupy the land in the first place. The only people who really own are those who have always been on the land and who inherit the land. It's an inheritance. It can't be bought, it can't be sold, it can't be licensed. Okay? And that's not what they're telling the people. Okay? So let's get back into when you talk about lien. This is a dictionary. What's this? Webster's Student Dictionary, 19. I think this. What is this? What year is this? This is 1953, 1956. Okay. Now let's look at the definition of lien. Okay. Lien says it's a legal right to control or enforce a charge upon the property of another person until a certain claim or obligation is met or paid, as he had a lien upon a building. So let's look at this. The banks say, as collateral, okay, I'm going to give you, you go to the bank for a loan, and the bank like, all right, how much you want? $20,000. I'll refinance the house. Let me get $50,000. The bank say, all right, I'll give you $50,000. No problem. In collateral, what are you going to give me in collateral just in case you don't pay this $50,000? That's what the lien is. Oh, you could lien the house. So if I don't pay, you just take the house. They're like, okay. So that can happen with the bank. But as you see here, it also says a lien right to control or enforce a charge upon the property of another person until a certain claim, until a certain claim or obligation is met. So there's two. You can either fulfill the obligation and pay the credit, pay the tax, pay the fine, pay the bill. That's the obligation. Or you can make a claim on the property where you won't have to pay the bill, pay the taxes. But the only people who can make a claim is those who preceded the bank in the first place, preceded the corporation. That's why they call it an inheritance. Okay? It's passed from one generation to another generation. All right? And we as Moors, we have that inheritance. We inherit the property. We don't have to go pay for it. You know what I'm saying? The government cannot, the U.S. corporation is bankrupt anyway, but they cannot give us the land back or give us property because they don't have it. They're fiduciary agents. They're more or less like, how can you say? They are like, we're the beneficiaries because we benefit. And our European brothers and sisters are more or less like the That's the word I'm looking for. Trustees. They're trustees. So they're looking over it because we gave them the permission through the treaties and all these other arrangements to look over the property, look after the property, yeah, until we claim it back, right? So they can do what they want to do, function as a business, because that's the agreement, but they can't really own it because that wasn't the agreement that was agreed upon. They can't own because that was not ever the agreement for them to own. Not in the 1500s, 1600s, 1800s, or 1900s. Because they can't own, but they can do business on it. They can use it. Okay? And that's what's going on now. Okay? So, now that we understand that land and the state are one and the same, we can now look at other terms like heir and hereditament, corporal, incorporal, escheat, ward, and wardship to understand the whole picture. Okay? So, now let's talk about the term heir. Heir is a person who, under the laws of intestacy, is entitled to receive an intestate descendant property. Okay? Now let's look at hereditament. Heir, hereditament. Okay? Hereditament says any property that can be inherited. Anything that goes from intestacy. Real property, land, both corporal and incorporeal. Okay? So, intestacy. So let's look that up. So we're not looking at any words that we don't understand what they denote. Alright. Intestacy. Interstate. Interstate denotes internal, domestic, as okay, here we go. The tubular part of an alimentary canal from stomach to okay. Oh, that's the intestine. Okay. Oh, here we go. I was reading the wrong one. Interstate. Not having made a valid will as he not disposed of by will. A person who transition, they say, who makes transition, interstate, intestacy. So it says to make a will. That's what it says, to make a will. So interstate means to make a will. So it's a person who, under the laws of intestate, to make a will, is entitled to receive something. Okay? A hereditament. Property can be inherited. Anything passes by a will. Real property. So it's generational. It's going from one generation to the next generation. Now let's look at corporal and incorporeal for those who are unfamiliar with these terms are. Corporal is a tangible item of property, land, or a building. That's corporal. Property. Tangible. Incorporeal is an intangible right, status, and title. And land such as easement. So corporal is physical, which you can touch, like land. Incorporeal is more or less was not tangible, like status or title, like noble. So you inherit, like hereditament, you inherit both corporal and incorporeal, both land and your title is inherited. Okay? Thus, if you didn't have the title before, you cannot obtain it later. You understand what I'm saying? You can't be like, oh, I fought him and I beat him and I took it, so now it's mine. Like, no, it don't work like that. It's still not yours. It's still there. It's just in the other person's possession. You understand what I'm saying? They have to give it to you. You can't take it from someone else. You understand? It doesn't work that way. Alright? Now we know that this land, understanding what corporate and incorporate denotes or means or signifies, now we know that the land itself must be inherited. Okay? People cannot buy land or sell land. It doesn't work like that. Land cannot be sold. It's those who have the land now, okay, always had it and always will. What they can do is they can allow someone else to stay on it, all right, or they can relinquish a claim to the land, right, but they can't really sell the land because the land is not for sale. What's theirs is theirs. It's meant to be theirs by nature. You understand? What they can do is allow someone else to stay there for a while, but it cannot ever be someone else's. You understand what I'm saying? So now let's look at Escheat. Escheat in feudal law is the reversion of land ownership back to the Lord when the immediate tenant transcends without heirs. Reversion of property to the state upon the transcending of an owner who has neither a will nor any legal heirs. Okay? So escheat denotes, right? Someone has the land and they don't have any will or heir, then it goes back to the state. If that person had a contract with the state, if that person didn't have contract with the state, it doesn't go back to the state. You understand what I'm saying? That's the truth. It stays in the hands of the private ownership. You understand? It doesn't change hands. Alright? Now let's look at the term wardship. Ward. Ward is a person, usually a minor, who is under the guardian's charge or protection. Wardship. The right of a feudal lord under guardianship of a tenant's minor heir until the heir reaches age of majority 18. So wardship is the right for a feudal lord, someone else, trustee, to have guardianship over the tenant's minor heir until the heir reaches maturity. And ward is a person, usually a minor, who is under the guardianship of protection. And thus many of our brothers and sisters today are wards of the state or in wardship, because either they are minor, number one, or they made an agreement with the state that makes them dependent of the state or to the state. Thus, everything that they do, they are what? The state has a say-so in what they do. So many of my brothers and sisters who are Moors just like me, all right, are wards or being held in wardship, all right, until they bring themselves out of wardship, until they just say that, hey, okay, I'm competent now, I'm aware, I am ready to carry on my responsibilities and do what I have to do. Okay, so many of our brothers and sisters are there right now, and they're ready to do that. And some of us are not quite ready yet, and that's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All right? My responsibility is to make sure I share this information so people understand what's really going on. All right? So they're not looking at someone else to blame as for their own legal condition. Okay? It's very important to understand that. All right? Okay. All right. Now that we know that this land is Morocco, or Mu, or Al-Marak, Amaruka, the land of the Moors, not Mexicans, not Indians, the land of the Moors. What can we use today that's effective in our daily lives? The first thing is to understand copyright, trademark, trade name. This will secure your name and make sure that anyone who uses it would need your permission to use it. Okay? And it's very important to understand UCCs and other things like this. Alright? We're about to get into the next segment, because I know my phone can only hold videos for 33 minutes. So we're going to pause now, and we'll pick right back up with trademark, trade name on the next portion. Peace and love, family, as always.